Welcome back, everybody, and I'm sitting here on an unusual time with my friend Chancey. Usually we're here on a Sunday morning before church doing this podcast, because we're so busy for the rest of the week, but here we are on a Saturday night this week, Chancey.
Evening, Brad. Happy to be at her house.
I mean, tell you what, me and Chancey have been so busy since springtime when we talked to you last that I hadn't even seen Chancey, to be honest with you.
See your dad, I come in, but you're always gone. Or I did see you the other day. You were feeding cows.
And that's the biggest complaint I get here at the feed stores. You're never there. Well, I tell you what, life has taken us lots of different directions, Chancey. Either chasing kids or doing farm work at this time of the year. And since we've talked to you last, we have had an exceptional spring here in Central Texas.
Had good spring.
How many inches of rain you think we got over this spring?
Oh, I couldn't even tell you. I mean, with that one rain, my rain gauge broke, and I didn't even bother buying another one.
I mean, probably close to 20 inches,
at least, yeah. And that was just in probably April and May.
And for those of you who don't know, usually we're at like a 36 inches per year, 32 inches per year, probably something like that for the year.
Yeah.
And we got just about that all spring. And boy, the grass was beautiful. Corn is looking great. A lot of cotton didn't get planted in our area because it was just too wet to plant it. But the crops were looking really good. And boy, when the rain shut off, it shut off.
Yeah, it got hot quick.
And we went from a highs in the 80s to highs of 102, 103 in a hurry too.
Yeah, and humidity absolutely unbearable.
I mean, tell you, you can sure feel it. It's like you feel like a potato boiling out there when you go out there right now. And so it's drying the corn down in a hurry. We could be looking at possible 100-plus bushel per acre corn, or we could be looking at 60 bushels per acre in the low spots because it was just so daggone wet.
Yeah, you can drive through some of these pastures and see where those low spots where the corn just shows it.
So the poor corn this year went from being too wet to nitrogen deficiency because, as you know, whenever when the soil stay waterlogged like that, nitrogen deficiency becomes a problem. And for several reasons, leaching being the main one, and so now to finish it off with this ridiculous heat that we're having here. So we're gonna see if this corn can take every extreme that it could possibly get this year.
Yeah, and I hope so because I went to Green's Sausage House the other day, and
Thanks for the phone call, Chancey. I wouldn't mind going there with you.
You were working.
Yeah, I like an occasional collage, Chancey.
Yeah, well, but all that country looked good, man.
Oh, it does.
It looked so awesome. I just love driving through that part of the county and every year and just looking at all that dry farmland, what I call dry. It's not irrigated, but just beautiful, all that good country. It's all put together, and it looks wonderful when it gets the right rains and the corn's doing good.
A sales rep that we have actually told us that he went down to South Texas for a spell to do something. Said the crops look great all the way down the coastal bend area. Just corn's looking great, milo's looking great, cotton's looking great. Everything's looking great across the whole Blackland Prairie. So it should be a good year for that. Hopefully we'll be able to find a place to go with our corn markets to sell them to. Because once the granaries fill up, if you don't have grain bins, sometimes it gets to be tough to find a place to sell your grain and stuff whenever everything gets full. But that could be the case here. And from what I understand, I think the Midwest is a little dry.
Yes.
So the market.
They're praying for rain.
Yeah. So the markets have been holding up, and was all that rain pretty good for the wildlife?
Oh, absolutely. We should have an awesome, incredible antler year.
I saw a buck. I was going to tell you. I saw a buck.
They're already good looking.
Yeah,
already.
They were in velvet already yesterday.
Yeah.
I saw a buck with little antlers already running across the hayfield we were cutting.
Yeah, they've been in velvet for a while, but man, they're doing really well. Yeah, that early spring, that jump start, it's going to help them out tremendously. And if we can get some rains in July, that would be great. But I tell you, they've already got a great kickstart.
Yes, and a lot of
production, in my opinion, should already be good. It's got a good start to it, and even if it turns off really, really dry, a lot of the woody browse has a good jump to it, so they'll be just fine.
Well, and I've been seeing a lot of little fawn too, hanging out in the hayfields we've been cutting.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was plenty of rain. Fawn and cover was everywhere, absolutely everywhere. So. The does didn't have to travel for it. There was so much water. They didn't have to travel for water. They could just pretty much find a good fawning cover and lay their babies wherever they needed them. And, yeah, it should be a good year.
Well, and so the weird thing about it, too, is, last time we did an episode, I think we talked about that heavy ice storm that we had.
Yeah.
And since then, just this week, a gentleman came into the feed store and was telling me how hard it is to raise exotics because he said that freeze that we had come through here, I want to say he told me that one of his friends has a high fence just up the road from here and said he lost $600,000 worth of exotics because of that ice storm that we had. And that's pretty unbelievable.
Yeah, no, they're just not adapted to it.
That's a tough pill to swallow.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I got Buddy and Bandera and also Bastrop, and yeah, it was hard on them too. They didn't lose that much, but they did lose some.
Oh,
especially
man.
when you're talking about those super exotics like kudus and stuff like that. You know, I mean, those things are adapted to South Africa. And, yeah, it gets cold in South Africa, no doubt about it. They get freezes and stuff like that. But 0 degrees and ice and everything else and then freezing everything up is a different ball game.
And I guess the parasites bother him, too. He was explaining to me how hard parasites are on those exotics.
I'm sure. I'll be honest with you. I worked on a game ranch that we had exotics, but back then, we just dealt with the easy ones, the axis and the fallow and the black bucks. You know, every now and then we'd put a red deer out there or something. But when you start getting those super exotics, yeah, there's no telling. But I'm sure that different climate, different continent, different atmosphere, everything.
Not adapted to it.
Yeah, just not adapted. I mean, we might be at the same latitude, but it's a whole different country.
You know, speaking of that and things having to adapt it to certain places and things, and needing their space and all that, I guess that kind of brings us to today's topic, which we've been discussing a lot lately, which is land use.
Land use.
And for land use for lots of reasons.
Well, it's the most important thing that we have going right now.
And the land that we have, and we're not going to get any more of it.
Not making any more of it.
Unless SpaceX or somebody gets to business and finds a way for us to get to Mars or something.
I ain't going to Mars. I'm going to stick my butt right here in Texas.
Oh, hey, but you never know. The fishing might be great there.
Well, they better show me some yellow cats before I go.
God.
No way I'm getting on. I mean, just look at those guys that went off in that ocean the other day. And they're only going, 2 miles?
2.5 miles, yeah, I think is what they
2.5 miles
said.
down the ocean, which, that's a whole nother crap. But you're talking about going to Mars? Well, nope, you can have it.
Boy, ain't that the truth. Because you don't need a failure like that when you're halfway to Mars.
No.
Oh, my gosh.
I think I'll just stay here.
A lot could go wrong, Chancey, in our migration to Mars.
Yeah, it could.
Let's just stay here until they get that good and figured out.
Absolutely. It'd be like probably in the olden days, you just didn't make a trip to Washington, D.C. overnight.
That's true, yeah. You think that maybe that's what they said in the early days too, Chancey. I'm sure my grandma was like, "Hey," to my grandpa, "Hey, let's go to Temple," and he's like, "No, not just yet."
Hey, what's crazy? Like my mom told me when she was born and raised in Yearleton, she went to school at Mary Hardin Baylor, but she said like the gravel road, 1915 was a gravel road.
Is just that recent?
Yeah, and that would have been in the early 60s, I guess, 50s. Mm-hmm. And she told me she used to catch a bus here in Cameron at the used to be the bus stop here, but now it's McElworth, the car salesman.
I didn't know that was a bus stop.
Yeah, that was a bus stop. The bus stop, and she would catch a bus there, and that would take her to Belton because it was such a big deal to go to Belton.
I'll be dang.
Yeah.
And now here, me and you, our wives probably drive there 5 times a week.
At least.
Yeah.
At least they're our College Station.
And
it's not in Temple, so I'll go to College Station.
It's funny you mention that too because, speaking of a story like that, my grandma, she's been passed away now for several years, but she grew up through, the Depression and all that time. And I'll never forget her telling me the story about growing up in the small community outside of
Clarksville, right?
Actually, she was out at Ben Arnold out there, and her dad was actually, I guess ahead of his time, and he was trying to get enough signatures on a petition to get electricity out there to Ben Arnold where they lived at. And she said nobody would sign that petition because they didn't want those wires running all over their house.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
And so she said she'll never forget the time that they finally got enough signatures to get power out to Ben Arnold. And she said that they had one light hanging over their kitchen table, and she said she can never forget the time that they turned that light on for the first time, and nobody could believe how bright that was. And she said that her mom made her dad redo the kitchen floor because they didn't know how bad it was till they could see it with all that light.
Yeah.
Isn't that unbelievable?
Wow.
Yeah. How much things have changed now.
Yeah.
And so, back then, like you said, whenever you were stuck where you were stuck and all this, the necessities were still there. Well, I mean, like, we're just like deer. What are those things, those limiting factors that we need? Just
Even
like
people, we need food, cover, water, and space.
food, cover, water, and space.
Every species, every living creature.
And, and if you think about it, none of that is man-made.
No.
That was all put here, by God, giving us. That's the things we
Amen.
need to survive.
Yep. Food, cover, water, space.
Food, cover, water, space. All the extra stuff that we've created we don't necessarily have to have.
No.
It's nice.
No.
I enjoy electricity.
I do too. I love hot water. I'll be quite honest with you. I would have a hard time without hot water. I lived in Costa Rica for a long time and didn't have any hot water.
They don't have hot water there?
Where I lived, they didn't. It was just, but they had running water and it was clean and you could drink it.
We got listeners in Costa Rica right now going,
no,
what the heck?
No.
Where'd this guy
in
stay?
Certain places, yeah, like in San Jose, of course they did. But where I was staying at, they had some type of little, I wouldn't call it hot water. It was not hot water like we know. They had some type of little thing that they'd put on top of their roof and would try to generate, with solar power and warm the water. But no.
Sure, the sun would heat it like
yes,
heating in a water hose, like a water hose getting hot, basically.
Yeah, but it was cold after you ran it just for.
It didn't stay long enough to heat.
No, and I'll be honest with you. I learned to live with it. I dealt with it. I missed hot water. Hot water was a big deal for shaving, just bathing, or like taking a shower. Didn't know. It just goes to show how spoiled we are. You go to a different place that doesn't have hot water or running water, period. Like the water goes out on your house. How many times do you go up there and try to turn the water on and nothing comes out because you already forgot that you don't have water?
Oh, well, and take, for instance, like during the freeze when we lost power for a week. We were lost. It's kind of sad that we've gotten that dependent on it, but we are.
But we are.
Yeah.
And it's scary.
It is scary. Yeah, because we don't have to have it.
No.
But whenever you're used to it and it's something that you've built your life around, well, then it's become something you have to have.
Yes. I tell you, like I said, I like hot water. I could probably do without AC. I wouldn't like it. I could probably live without AC. My wife could probably live without it, but running water and hot water would be hard for me to deal without.
Now, I need running water, but I could probably do without hot water.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd assume have AC over hot water.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
I guess that's where you and I are different.
For some reason. Yeah. I don't know why it is.
I'll go outside and sit in the shade or something, but, man.
But I'm
take
also
a cold shower in the wintertime, Brad. Have you ever done that? Because I was in Costa Rica.
Well, that's a good point. I didn't think about it. It's summer right now, and it's 105 outside.
Well, yeah, that's one thing.
Yeah, so that may be swaying the way I'm thinking a little bit. But you're right about that. The wintertime would be tough to take a cold shower. Probably just wouldn't take one.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
No, you take a sweat bath or hope you got some wipes.
I just go through the winter without a shower. It'd be just fine. If everybody did it, it would be normal.
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah.
Yeah, nobody would stink.
No, wouldn't even. Yeah, wouldn't even realize it, Chancey. Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Save water.
Yeah, and you save, and that's very one of the resources that we probably need to be talking about, along with saving land.
Yeah,
okay?
Land is everything.
So it is, and it's there's only a certain areas in our nation where you could grow food at.
Absolutely.
There's only certain areas in our nation where the wildlife that we love so much exists at. It's very important in those areas that we look at the way that we're using this land, I guess is what you would say.
Yeah.
The space part is a big deal.
Space. Well, it's resource management. Land resource management. We need to look at our land not as something that we can make money off of so much, which it
okay,
we
so
can,
that's an age-old story.
but
okay, so
also as a resource that we need to, it's a resource that we need to protect and also preserve so that we can continue to make money off of.
Okay, and so the sad thing is that this is a controversial
Oh,
topic.
no doubt.
Because both sides are right. You got
To an
dollars
extent.
and you got resources. Okay, the two a lot of times don't really go hand in hand. So, and I guess I should explain it to you like this. Like we could look at a piece of property, let's say out in the Blackland Prairie.
Yep. Okay, let's just take one out there in Mara.
Well, let's even break Texas away and say that it's just Texas and not the rest of the United States.
Just Texas.
If we had the citizens in Texas and we're like, okay, we're depending on this Blackland Prairie and the coastal bend area to produce the food that the whole state eats.
Yes, we're not going to ship any food out, any beef cattle, nothing else.
That's
we're
right.
Going to make enough to eat.
That's right. Okay, so if we look at that, How much of the state of Texas do you think you could possibly grow food on?
Well, we already know. The coastal bend.
The coastal bend, the
Prairie,
Blackland Prairie, right?
the high plains, and that's only if irrigation keeps working.
That's only if you don't run out of water.
Yes.
And that could, like, as much as you hate to say it, that day could be coming.
The high plains could not grow anything that they grow if they did not irrigate. Because it does not rain enough.
That's true.
The only reason they're able to grow what they grow is because of the Ogallala Offal.
Yes, and you hope
we can grow food here. Now, there are some people that irrigate, but we can grow here because we have dryland farmers here. It rains enough. It's at 30.
Now, we're in a unique area where
Yes.
not only do we have dry land, and it, like you said, we get 32, 36 inches of rain per year, which will produce 100 bushel corn. It'll produce, bale and a half cotton. It'll grow watermelons. It'll grow, just about anything you want to grow.
Yep. It will grow enough for one season to make one family survive if they're diligent.
Yes, and then there is also irrigation in the river bottoms and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as being able to rely on producing food
For the whole state?
for a state, you better be looking at conserving the land where it rains enough to produce it.
Absolutely.
Because
all of our places that we grow crops, that's where we get our food from. I think it's a very good idea to not put houses on those places. And also solar panels.
Well, let's back up a little bit and say that probably when the original settlers came to Texas, they probably said, okay, we need to find a place where we got food, water,
cover
and shelter. Mm-hmm. I mean, cover and space. Okay, they probably said that, right? Okay, and so they found a place
it's necessary for survival.
Like, they didn't look for a place that had the cheapest buffet or something like that. It was based off of the things that you had to have to survive.
That's why cities are
where they're at.
Were built, yes.
And that's a problem.
That's
because we, like I said, our original settlers settled where they could grow food at. The climate was good,
close to water,
and there was plenty of water to drink. And then they invited their friends.
Yeah.
And those turned into cities. And that's where the problem begins at, I guess you'd say, with land use, right?
Yeah, I would say so. And not only does it begin with like just people congregating in one single place, but also I think now in today's world, land use is becoming more of a problem of trying to get more people in for monetary reasons and not thinking about the resources that are there because they're limited.
Well, just look at our neighboring counties and the water usage.
Yes.
It's getting to where – so now we'll break it down, I guess, from a state to a county.
Yeah.
So now you're getting – so let's say that we got one county that's become overly populated and there's not enough water there anymore for it. So what do you have to – you got to go to a neighboring county. Mm-hmm. Okay, and then so what happens to that county? Well, then people begin to move there. It begins to build. Well, now all of a sudden we're running out of water in that county. Mm-hmm. Okay, and we would have ran out of food too had it been isolated to that county because you couldn't feed all the people there anymore either. So now you're depending on your neighboring counties to grow the food for you too. Mm-hmm. Correct or wrong?
No, I think you're absolutely correct. Historically, people depended on small communities. They were, at the beginning it was tribal groups, and then it went to small communities like Little House on the Prairie. I mean, we all grew up watching Little House on the Prairie. People lived in little small communities. They worked together. They farmed together. They sold and traded amongst each other.
Like bartering.
Bartering, yeah. I mean, you needed a pig, and you didn't have no chickens, but whatever. I mean, you traded, did whatever, made whatever. But now we've got so many people in a small, confined area that need water, and they're not doing anything to make water,
Well, because you got all the concrete being poured, the streets. And
rooftops.
And it gets real hard to recharge your aquifers and stuff when all the water's running into the creeks and streams.
Yeah, and eroding everything away and washing out trees and sedimentation and filling in stream channels that used to run in springs and sending it down to the Gulf of Mexico. This is a huge problem. It's a problem that needs to be addressed, and we have known about for 30 years, and nobody's wanting to talk about it.
Well, and
nobody has an answer to it.
But here's the reason mainly for it. It's because of the age-old battle of dollars and resources.
Agreed.
And again, both sides are right and both sides are wrong.
I don't know. I agree. You've got to be able to make money. But Greg Abbott, we've known forever that we had water problems. We've known we've had water problems for a long time. And he has been sitting over there, come on in, 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 screaming to the world for everybody to come on. Texas is growing, Texas is everything else. You know, and that's fine. I want an economy too. I want a great economy. But if you don't have enough water to feed the people that are here, then what are you going to do when, you know, the stuff hits the fan?
That's right.
Because it's coming.
That's
One
right.
of these days, it's coming.
That's right. Yeah, you've only just like too many cattle on a pasture,
Yes.
just like too many deer in a high fence.
In a good year, you can get by with it.
Mm-hmm.
But you better manage for drought years.
Well, look at our lakes last year. How low were our area lakes last year?
Yeah, they were low because it's water consumption, but it wasn't even that dry, and you know it. It wasn't nowhere near like 2011.
That's right.
They were so low because of the consumption.
That's right.
So
Yes.
just wait till a bad one hits.
So I guess, you know, we're free in this country to do what we want to do.
Yeah.
Like if you own property, you're free to do what you want to do with
You
it.
can either destroy it or you can protect it.
That's right. And so it's up to you what you want to put on it, but it comes down to when we talk dollars or resources. Like let's say for instance that a 1,000-acre place goes up for sale on the Blackland Prairie.
Yep.
Where it's been farmed at, where you can produce food. It's got good, like it rains enough there to produce it without water. So this 1,000-acre place goes up for sale. Who's the place going to sell to? Is it going to sell to the developer who can pay $20,000 an acre? Or is it going to sell to the farmer to grow food on it who could pay $3,000 to $4,000 per acre? So who's wrong and who's right? I don't know that either one is wrong or either one is right because everybody wants the best for their kids and their family.
Amen.
You know, but if in the end of the story, I guess if you looked at who created this dollar, this wealth, we created that, and it's not needed for survival, unlike the food and the water that we need to protect on that particular piece of property.
I think you're 100% right. And unfortunately, I think a flaw of mankind, which we're all guilty of, especially me, is sometimes it's very hard to see past your own lifespan.
True.
You know,
that's a big problem.
Your own ability to see past what you're going to do. But the reality is we all need to be striving to live by the golden rule. And we all need to be striving to leave something better for our children than what we got. I mean, what I have right now and enjoy and cherish was better than what my mama had as far as like opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what we should strive to leave for our children. And natural resources are a big deal. It's becoming a conflict amongst the money and the resources. So
it's a big conflict.
It is. But at the end of the day,
that resources will never win until they're so limited that they're so valuable.
But they're already getting that way.
Oh, I mean, but that's mainly because of it's all being developed.
Yes.
And that's not helping our water situation.
Or our crop situation.
Like, to be honest with you,
situation.
to be honest, right now, Williamson and Travis County and even San Antonio in that area are dependent on Milam County to keep our water and stuff, like to keep a water supply to fuel them.
Yes.
So that involves us keeping a population in Milam County of the population in Milam County that we have right now. Samsung did not help that.
No.
Okay, so if what they're saying is true about what's going to happen in Milam County with the growth, Milam County will be worried about Milam County's water, much less having enough water to send out to neighboring counties. So so it gets back to that original problem of resources or dollars.
Yeah. Well, I think the people that made those decisions weren't looking out for their future generations.
That's
I
right.
think it's just that simple.
Yeah.
As far as Milam County, because anybody that's got any sense that's done any resource planning or any conservation planning in the last 20 years knows dang good and well that from Dallas to Austin to San Antonio to Houston, that our area, Milam County, Falls County, Williams County, is fixing to grow like crazy over the next 20 years and even more. So anybody that's done any research in that knows what's fixing to happen. So either they got it in and got their money and then got out when it was good, or they either had no lack at all, absolutely zero thought of the future. And so, in my opinion, they weren't living by the golden rule, and they dang sure weren't what I would consider good land resource managers. Land is a resource. It's a natural renewable resource. Soil builds itself, just like wildlife is a natural renewable resource. And our job is to be husbandry of it, to maintain it. We're smart enough. We know how to do it.
We spent billions of dollars researching how to do it.
Yeah. Well, not only that, those old timers knew it. I mean, the Israelites would let their field lay fallow every 7 years. They knew it. God ordained it years and years and years ago. You know what? Yeah, use your land, but you got to rest it some. Don't abuse it.
True.
And take everything from it.
Yeah, true. And so, and you bring up a good point, so what's the answer to that, I guess you'd say? At the end of times, if we're going to keep on covering up land with concrete, if we're going to continue to cover up land with solar panels, if we're going to continue to cover land up with all these things, we're going to get to where we're going to have less and less land on to actually grow food on, so you're going to have to push it even harder and harder and harder.
Oh, yeah.
Which that's already happening.
Because, more fertilizer, more water.
If you look at it since the Industrial Revolution, that's already happening.
Yeah.
I mean, we're already getting to a point where you got to push, like we're just getting so many people and so much, like only certain areas, like I said, left that you could actually grow food on. That it's getting to be where we're having to produce more and more per acre, than what
sure
than what we're, and pretty soon we're gonna get to a point where we can no longer do it. And I guess you saw in the news about now they're making meat and stuff, I guess, in labs. USDA has now
I ain't eating it.
They now approved the very first lab grown meat, I guess you'd say, is a chicken breast or something like that.
Well, yeah, I did see that, but I won't be eating it.
But
some
directly
people
honest,
may be forced to eat it.
But that's coming. Like if it gets to where we no longer, if we don't start taking care of the land that we can grow food on, that's gonna happen.
And our farmers and the people that grow it. Because it takes some level of intelligence to grow and be a farmer. I mean,
it's not as easy as it looks.
Heck no, it ain't. Anybody that's ever gardened or farmed before knows dang good and well how difficult it is, how challenging it is, how the weather is. And just to back up a little bit, go back what we were talking about earlier, how you were talking about, okay, we're going to start with Texas and then we'll go with county. Well, within every population, doesn't matter if you're in Milam County or if you're in Texas or if you're in the world population, you have what's called, as far as a species level, what's called a minimum viable habitat acreage, and then also a minimum viable population number. So basically, like the minimum viable habitat acreage would be the amount of acres that it takes to sustain a population to survive. How many acres of food, cover, water, space does that take for that population of whatever species, whether it be birds, snakes, rats, and it all changes depending on the species. But whatever that number is, and then the minimum viable population would be how many to survive and reproduce to carry on to the next generation. Because you may be able to survive and you may be able to reproduce, but can your children survive and reproduce?
That's right.
And that is important, and that's something that I don't think anybody's thinking about.
I'm totally with you. And, the other thing about it is, yes, we could get to the point where everybody could grow their own food. But there's areas of the state where we can't do that.
No.
So then everybody would have to pile on to the area where you can grow food, and then we're overpopulated on the area where we can grow food. So that brings out to a point that where you got to protect the land where you do grow the food so we can feed everybody else in the state. I mean,
agreed.
That's just
open space is important.
Yes.
Cleans our air, cleans our water, grows our food.
And on our last episode we had, this may be a little bit off topic, but we had Dr. Frank Summers on who gave us our garden report. And I was listening to his horticulture hotline last Saturday, and he brought up urban heat island effects. Mm-hmm. How hot it is, around, like how basically how concrete stores heat, during the day. And then in the evening time, it starts to release it, and so your nighttime temperature never gets as cool as what it should have. And then the next day heats up again, and just it keeps repeating itself over and over and over again. That's another thing about, all the concrete and stuff too.
And it gets worse as the summer progresses.
Yes. That's a little off topic, but I thought back to Frank, and I thought that.
No, but it's interesting. I love that, because we're talking about climate and everything else like that. I mean, but. The tilt of the earth is what's giving us our seasons. And June 21st was the longest day. We just had it, 2 days ago? Mm-hmm. It's the longest day.
Yeah, summer solstice. Yeah, sure was. Yeah.
But what's the hottest day, month of the year?
It's coming.
August is generally the for Texas anyway, the hottest month of the year. But
That's still 4.5 weeks away.
yeah, but it's actually not when you would think. It's just that lag. It's just like the hottest part of the day should technically be when the sun is directly over you, which is noon. But you've got a lag time there. So generally, the hottest part of the day is 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Same thing with the summer. That's why August is hotter than June generally, even though that the earth is or the sun's further away.
Never really thought of it that way.
So it's just a lag there.
Yeah, and it's a complicated problem, is what it is.
Yeah,
Because,
I'd say so.
Because like I said, it dates all the way back to where our original cities were started at.
Yep.
And
They're water sources.
Yeah.
They're good places to grow food.
That's right. And it just grew and grew and grew, and we've never done anything to correct that. But it all goes back to the whole fact that, like with the freedom of owning land becomes a responsibility.
No doubt.
And so it's our responsibility with the resources of the dollars, basically, is what it comes down to. I mean, we've got to protect the resources that we have. Bottom line, land being the biggest one of them.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay,
They're not making any more of it.
So now I remember,
kind of like time.
Now I remember what I was going to say.
Okay.
So yes, it's a great idea that we could all grow our own food. That's a great idea. But the problem is we're going to have to totally change our way of life in order to do that.
Absolutely. Which I don't think is a bad thing. I think the way that Americans live is totally
okay. But then you think about it this way. If I'm a doctor, I can't go be a doctor every day anymore because I got to stay at home and grow my food.
No, you can still be a doctor and grow and garden.
You could probably garden a little bit, but you ain't going to have time to do everything else it takes, Chance.
That's where I talk about
you think about chickens and eggs and steaks and all that kind of stuff. Like
I can't even do that myself.
But that's what I'm getting at. We like that.
Yeah.
Like I like to go home today and I'm going to have potatoes and I'm going to have avocados from South Texas and I'm going to have blueberries from somewhere and I'm going to have all this stuff that we couldn't grow here. But luckily, somebody somewhere still has the space to grow it at, and they're doing it, and they're sending it to us.
Yeah.
Like in order to do it any other way, it's going to be a whole another change of the whole concept of how we work.
Drastic change.
Change.
Well, not only how we work, how we live.
I'm not saying it would be a bad thing, but it would be a change.
Oh, big time.
Yes,
and most people couldn't handle it.
No, and so. Get back, and I'm probably one of them. I mean, I farm we farm 1,100 acres. I mean, and so like I'm used to growing stuff, and we got 300 head of cows. So, I'm used to growing stuff.
Yeah.
But still, I don't think I'd want to go butcher a side of beef every 2 months to do that, and can all the vegetables and
no.
I'd rather go to the grocery store and buy that stuff that someone produced somewhere. I like that.
Yeah, I do too, but I would much rather go buy it locally.
Or buying it locally would be good.
Like the beef that I buy. If I go to H-E-B, or no, let's just say I go to Cameron, go to Keith's Mini Max.
Keith's Mini Max has been closed for 20 years, Chancey.
Harlan's, whatever. Say I go to Harlan's.
There's a grocery store here in town. It was Keith's Mini Max when me and Chancey were younger, and we still call it Keith's.
So I go to Harlan's.
You were that old.
Yeah, and I buy some ground meat.
He's Keith's Mini Max old.
Where is that beef coming from?
Well, now if you're in the state of Texas, they're trying to go to that
they need to because
sticker.
I would much rather and spend twice as much money to go buy my beef from you, Brad Voslin, twice the amount of money than go and buy some from Harlan's that I have no idea where it came from. For all I know, who knows where it came from in Mexico or Argentina or anything else. But these processors, the middleman. So that's my point. I think that there's a demand for that stuff.
Well, yeah, you've got a great point, but I'm too busy working at the store, working at the feed store, working at the school, raising kids to go butcher that calf for you, Jancy.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Well, that's where we got to, there's
that's
a market out there.
That's the issue we're running into there. That's the reason I like Keith's Mini Max.
Yeah.
That closed 20 years ago.
No, it's not. It's still in the same place.
Yeah, but it's called Arlen's now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's Keith's.
Yeah. And so that's the issue that we're running into, though. That's what I'm getting at. We're dependent on South Texas down there where they grow the apples and the peaches and the watermelons and the onions and all those types of things.
Sure.
We need those people down there to not cover that land up with concrete and solar panels.
Amen.
And there's people
we need food.
And they're depending on us, too. Like I said, Williamson and Travis counties depending on us for water.
Mm-hmm.
They're depending on us not to cover our county up with people and concrete and use up any more water than what we're using. because they need it there already. And that's fine because that's just the way that it's been. That's the way that society has worked, and that's the way that we've built to. It's been a busted system since it began whenever, like I said, the settlers settled on the places that they grow food, water, and had space. And then that's just where populations grew, and that's where we are today. So how do you fix it? I don't know. How do you protect it? I do know. I mean, it's a complicated story of resources over dollars.
But the reality is people do need to learn to live within their means. There's nothing wrong with learning to live within your means and also trying to provide for yourself, in my opinion. And even if you live in town, they have rooftop gardens. You can buy potting soils. You can do it where, there's all kinds of different ways, in my opinion, that you can try to help. Because the fact of the matter is, from what I've witnessed, and I'm just going to just speak bluntly right quick, is I've worked in state agencies for the last 20-something years. And for the last 25 years, they've been talking about water. Whether it be Texas Parsons, and there's some trying to do it, or Texas A&M. They all are screaming at the top of their lungs, but nobody in government does anything about it. And it's because the people don't want it.
Well, the water is a big issue.
Yeah.
I mean,
nothing grows without water.
And the main thing that we've got to do is limit the amount of concrete we're pouring.
Amen. And the amount of houses that we're putting on and everything else, and impervious cover.
That's right. You've got to slow down the water when it comes.
Yes.
You can't let it all go to the Gulf.
And we can't be building homes and solar panels on the places that grow our food.
That's right.
It's just about that simple.
It is about that simple. Yeah. Yes. And
that's like a no-brainer. Like if you want to put solar panels out there, and that's fine, but go put it on all those rooftops that you just built. Don't put it out here in prime farmland.
And do the same thing.
Yes.
It'll produce the same amount of electricity
yes.
on top of it. If you can't produce enough electricity with the solar panels on your rooftop to power your house, why would we put the same, like twice as many out on our farmland in order to produce the power to power that house? It probably has a place.
Yes, as a implement,
yes, like I said, like you said, on a rooftop. I think it has a place there.
Yeah.
I really do.
I agree as well. But as far as like taking out cropland,
I don't think you should take. But I don't think you should take out cropland to put anything on besides cropland.
Yeah, me too.
It's just getting
either that or
like,
pasture.
Because our kids, it's not for being chancy.
No,
it's for our kids and grandkids.
The golden rule.
Yes, I mean like Chancey said before, we better start looking out for those things now because it's really snowballing. It's really starting to snowball. I mean, in the areas we need to be protecting and the resources we need to be protecting are just getting smashed to the ground by dollars.
Yes. Yeah. Money.
Yeah.
Money. The root of all evil.
It's a sad situation with it is what it is.
Yeah, but you know what? People inherently, I know, I've traveled all over this country and worked in all different states, and everybody I meet is inherently good.
It's just gotten to be where that's just the way that society has gone to since the beginning of time, basically.
Well, you can make so much money off of your land.
That's right.
Whether what's on top of it or what's underneath it, or whether you sell the gravel or sell the topsoil or farm it or sell the coal underneath it or sell the oil underneath it or the water resources.
That's
There's
true.
Lots of money to be made. Seems like people need more and more and more money to make a living.
Oh, I mean, you can't do anything with a $5 bill anymore.
No.
I mean, you
can't do nothing with a $100 bill anymore.
That you can't. I mean, and that's the problem with it.
It barely even fill up your gas tank.
And that's the issue we run into too. That is not helping resources.
No.
I mean, so somebody comes to me and they're like, "Hey, I will give you $700 an acre for 35 years if you'll let me put solar panels on it."
Yeah. Sure.
We've got property where they're wanting to put them at, and it's the last thing I would ever let anybody do. But I'm an old school. I like to grow food. It's what is in me, and I want to leave that. I know that my kids are going to need to eat one day, and I know your kids are going to need to eat one day. But we won't have to have electricity. Will it be nice to have electricity? Yes.
Amen.
Is it
but
something
you still got to eat?
You do. Yes, you do. And I mean, and now even look where we're coming now with what that first fusion reaction.
Oh, yeah. Isn't that amazing?
That's amazing.
Wow.
I mean, you talk about something
that's a game changer, dude.
You talk about something that's going to revolutionize power generation.
Yeah.
It's
That's a game changer.
So if you don't, I guess now all our nuclear power is produced by fission.
Yeah.
Nuclear fission, which is splitting atoms. And I guess there's a lot of waste involved with that, nuclear waste, and that's hazardous waste that you're like, what do we do with? But now for the first time, we've figured out a way to fuse two atoms together and gain more energy out of that reaction than it took to create it. And that's a big deal.
Yeah, it's basically
and it's safe.
The same
There's
reaction.
no waste.
No, it's the same thing.
The sun. It's how the sun works.
That's what I was going to say. Correct me if I'm wrong.
The sun is fusing hydrogen atoms to make helium atoms, and so until the sun runs out of hydrogen, we're in good shape.
Yeah.
But that's what they figured out how to do with power, and so that's going to revolutionize things.
Yeah.
And so when that will happen, I don't know.
Me either.
But as far as like solar panels and all that, I don't think that will ever hold a candle to what fusion power is going to be.
No, but the thing about it is, it's like you can go do all this stuff. It's like I actually think this solar panel stuff is a temporary thing. I actually think it's something it was like a fad that got in there. There was a whole bunch of money that was involved in it, and a whole bunch of money that the government dumped out there, and everybody's like, okay, there's billions and dollars out there. How can I make as much money?
How can I cash in on it?
Yes, and I think that's what was going on. But the thing about it is, I do think it's a short-term thing. But when you put those things on there, the effects they can have on the ecosystem and on the land in that short amount of time can be devastating and may take 100 years to fix.
Well, and
more than one generation of life.
Just look at all the runoff you're going to have.
Yes.
And that's impervious cover.
Yes. And I don't care what they say. They can sit there and talk. I've sat there and watched the thing, and they're like, oh, yeah, well, they're wildlife friendly. You can graze cattle underneath them. Well, everyone that I've seen has a security fence around it, And now you know wildlife getting through there other than a bird or a lizard. There's no large mammals moving back and forth through there. They say you can graze cattle underneath it, but everyone I've seen has been low to the ground, so you might be able to graze sheep underneath it. And then they don't want grass that gets tall, so they want to plant grass. It's basically what I would consider
like a Bermuda, I guess.
Yeah, but most of them are wanting to go green, so they don't want to plant that, so they want native. So that means they need to be planting like buffalo grass or curly mesquite, something that's drought tolerant and needs full sun, that doesn't grow tall. It doesn't grow tall. They don't want the grass to grow tall. That's the main thing, to get on the solar panels for maintenance and everything. So, depending on where they put it, yeah, they might be able to get by with that in the Blackland Prairie. But even then, those things like full sun. And if the solar panels covering it up, you still got – it's a mess. And
Well, just imagine the heat that those things will store.
Yeah.
You talk about an urban heat island effect. I mean, just that is a heat island right there going into the nighttime, I would think. That's like
it would make sense to me.
It would, yes.
I don't have any studies or research, but just like me, just thinking about it, yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any data or anything.
Me either,
it's all a new thing.
Hot's hot. I know one thing. Like, if I go put my hand in the grass, like tall grass, it's cooler than if I go put my hand on the gravel road.
Well, evaporative cooling.
So it's just like I don't have any research to document that, but I'm smart enough to the gravel road is hotter.
It does. Yes, it does. I spread some gravel at my house the other day, and I'm not going to lie to you. I sat there and debated it in my head for a good 20, 30 minutes of do I really want to cover up that grass with gravel? I mean, that's how much my mind works on things like that. I was like, I don't want to cover up that much evaporative cooling,
Yeah.
And so it was just a debate I had in my head. But in the times, we had to put that gravel out there to park on. And it's the same thing, over and over and over, on a big scale. We are doing what we have to do.
Amen.
And that's the reason that there's no right or wrong to this whole issue.
Well,
but if we're going to look down the road into the future for our kids and our kids' kids, they're going to have food and they're going to have water. We better start changing some things that we're doing.
I agree. And I think it goes back to this. And I'll go back to my old days of college when I was in wildlife biology. And they made me memorize something. It was a test question. It was a definition of wildlife management. And I still remember today because I had to memorize it 30 years ago or however many years ago. And the definition of wildlife management is I forget, it's like the scientific, ecological balance, strike a balance between the needs of people and the needs of those species, And so that's what we've got to do.
That's right. Yes, and the
It's
needs
just
of
that
our
simple.
species is pretty cut and dry.
Yes, food, cover, water, space.
That's right. Food, cover,
Yeah.
water, space. Food and water being the most limiting of those, I would say.
Yeah.
Water probably being number one.
Yeah, I mean, you can go a long time without food. But water, none of us can go more probably than 2 days, especially in this heat. And probably no more than, 2 days, I would say, is top. So water, absolutely, it's a critical resource, as we talked about.
Sure it is.
Yeah.
Yes, and once you become overpopulated, you've got a problem with that.
Yeah.
And so it's happening pretty rapidly. I mean, like I said, we're already several counties out from a problem in the center of it where water is the issue, and it's coming our way too.
Yeah. Oh, it's just a matter of time.
And we're just a microcosm of what's going on in this whole nation.
Well, what we talked about earlier, what you and I were discussing earlier. When I was growing up, my entire life, I never, ever saw Big Elm Creek go dry, ever. And I was on that thing at least 2 weeks a month every year for 8-10 years. And now you say it don't even run no more. Well, I mean, it runs, but it's intermittent. It doesn't flow perennially.
Yes. But again, like I told you when we were younger kids,
you're saying
that was Temple Sewage
Yeah.
Treatment Plant was dumping the treated water into that creek. That was keeping it running all summer.
Well, that's fine. I caught and swam in it all the time.
Yeah, hadn't hurt you. Hadn't got you this far.
Got me yet. Yeah.
And so, but now they putting up a big power plant, natural gas power plant right across the
and it
street.
doesn't flow water anymore.
They take that water, I think, to cool the generators or something, I guess. I'm not real sure, but now the Big Elm does no longer run. It turns into puddles pretty much.
Yeah, and that stinks because it had good fish population.
Literally, it stinks because that's Temple sewage water.
Well,
no, I'm just kidding.
It didn't stink.
But I'm pretty sure, Chancey, that creek is Temple's treated sewage water. That's where they dump it into.
Oh, yeah.
Or at least it finds its way there.
Sure.
And that's what kept it running. Me and Chancey swam in that a whole lot as kids.
Hell, I drank from it because I get thirsty.
I never drank from it. I had a good enough judgment about me looking at that.
Well,
and
you never got that thirsty, I guess.
No, I guess I didn't, Chancey. Yeah,
I did.
Yeah, looking into that water.
We swam in it all the time.
Yeah, you could only see your hand about 1.5 inches below the water, and then it turned. But my dad used to tell stories about the blue hole on that creek.
Yeah.
How it was crystal clear. You could see all the way to the bottom of it.
Yeah. Now, what happened there? There wasn't no Temple sewage treatment.
I'm guessing erosion, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, erosion probably is the biggest thing.
Sedimentation.
Yeah.
Probably.
Temple sewage plant.
Yeah.
No, I mean, to be honest with you, that probably is what the issue is. But we got,
like
there's we can say that's right or that's wrong, but it is what it is. It's what had to be done.
So, like I said, I got scatterbrained a while ago. I was thinking about something, but it's the application of ecological knowledge to vertebrate species and their plant and animal counterparts, which strikes a balance between the needs of those animal species and the needs of people. And that's where we need to look at everything, from cropland to houses to solar panels to everything. Look, yes, we can do this, but there's a way to do it where it makes sense, because there's people out there that will just look at the dollar.
Oh, yes, lots.
In my mind, that is the only feasible way out of this.
Well, and the biggest
people have to think of it exactly as what it is, a resource. A renewable resource that, if managed properly, it will be here for future generations.
Well, just look at the rice fields down around Houston. From what I understand, they're just about all covered up down there. It's like
sediment or
no, just development.
Yes,
and we can't grow rice here.
Campo.
We can't grow rice here. So we're depending on them down there to keep rice production up, because there's only certain area in the state where that's possible to do. And from what I understand, around Katy, that whole area,
it is crazy. Everywhere.
I don't go that way much, but from what I understand, that rice country is getting covered up in a big hurry down there.
Yep.
And we're early, that has not been going on for very long, and so it's really snowballed and is covering up in a big hurry. I don't know what the answer is to that. Again, that was where civilization started. You had a good port. You had you had good place to grow food. You had good climate. Didn't get too cold.
Yeah.
And so now it's just turned into a big, huge population of people that have covered up all the land that we're eventually going to one day need to grow food on.
Yeah. Well, I don't think that we have too many people on this earth. I don't at all. if we're running out of land and we're running out of crop spaces, I don't think it's a people problem per se. I think it's a management problem per se.
It's definitely a management problem.
It's a management problem per se.
I'm sure there's lots of people down in Katy, Texas that want to farm rice. But what I'm getting at is like they can't afford 50, 60,000 acre for a piece of farmland to farm because you never pay for it rice.
No.
But you can pay for it by putting houses on it.
Yeah.
And so that's a dollars over resources story right there. You
True.
know, who's right, who's wrong? Neither one, really, because you got to have houses. That's just where the population grew at. All the jobs are in downtown Houston. You know, you can't build your house 7 hours away and drive there to work every day. So it's just where we've gotten to, but we've got to fix it.
Yeah, I know. And I think I would much rather it be local farmers that are feeding local people. That's the way I think that it was designed. I think that is sustainable. What we're doing right now is not sustainable.
Well, but the only problem with that is eventually this is probably happening everywhere. Like, I mean, if we don't change something, we will no longer not only be able to feed America, we won't be able to feed anybody else. Because that's the straight up honest.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we're probably kind of counting on we'll be able to always buy corn from Brazil and we'll be able to buy, stuff from other countries if we develop this whole country.
Yeah.
It ain't going. I mean, whoever controls the food will control the world.
Yeah.
In the future, whoever's got the food and the water, everybody's got space. What they do with it is what's important.
I agreed.
And so that's kind of the story, I guess, in a nutshell, is that we got to start looking out for the future with how we're using our land today, because, like you said, we've known this is a problem, but nobody's doing anything to fix it.
No, the only people I know are doing stuff about it are private landowners. They're the ones. No, there's state agencies that give benefits and cost share programs and stuff. I will say Texas Parks and Wildlife does a great job as far as like grassland restoration, and Texas A&M as far as education. And I'm sure other states are doing well as well. It starts with the people first.
You get so busy in the things that you do that you just forget the things that you have to have for survival, like how to grow food and things like that.
Yeah.
And that just happened. Well, it really does.
I mean, do you remember? I used to go down to Dutchtown here, and there was that place that fixed boots. You can go get your boots resold right there, kind of catty corner across from Weed Hardware.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
My great grandpa had a shoe shop. He did that. He resold shoes.
Bootmakers and stuff. Mm-hmm. Anybody that's got any sense at all can read a book, can, grow a pig, fence a pig in, grow a pig out, feed them out. They can even grow a garden, as long as the weather's conditioned. It takes a whole different individual to build a pair of boots.
Very true.
Or a whole different other picture to take a little patch of cotton and make a shirt out of it.
Well, see, and that's where me and you, I guess, are going to disagree with, like you said, with the subdivisions and all, because I'm fine with that, because everybody there is working and doing something to keep society going. You know what I'm saying? That's what I was getting at a while ago is, in order for it to work where everybody grows their own food, I'm going to have to quit teaching. Because, you're just exhausted by 5 o'clock at the end of the day.
No, you could be a teacher for a small community in Modoc.
Well, but somebody else would have to grow the food for me. I just wouldn't have time.
Yeah.
I just wouldn't have time or energy to do it anymore, which is where we're at. That's where we're at.
We've been there.
No, we have, and that's what
it's a problem is because all of us are working.
Chasing dollars.
Our wife, and us.
Oh, yeah.
And, it takes 2 people to make a living now, which is absurd.
Yeah.
When in the 60s, one person could make a living and support a family of 3. Now it takes both people working
and probably rich
3,
parents.
4 jobs. Yeah.
And probably your parents that leave you something. It's tough.
Yeah. And that, don't even get me going on the value of the dollar and why it's gotten screwed up.
Yeah, don't get Chancey started on that. That's a whole other episode.
Oh, yeah, that's a whole other topic. It has nothing to do with wildlife. But, yeah.
Oh, man, the text messages I've gotten from Chancey over that conversation.
Oh, man. Well,
one of these days, that's what I'm going to do.
Everything, though, Bradley.
One of these days.
It affects everything.
One of these days, I'm going to come in here and do a podcast all by myself and just read the text messages I get from Chancey. Yeah, you'll enjoy that. Trust me. That'll be for your viewing pleasure right there. But to summarize it, Chancey, I don't remember what president it was, but this is a quote that I'm pretty sure the president said. If he didn't, he should have.
Yeah.
with freedom comes responsibility.
That sounds like something Jefferson would say.
And it might have.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't know either.
For all reasons, sure. Thomas Jefferson.
Yeah, I don't know
Okay,
either.
I honestly don't know which president said it. But with freedom comes responsibility. And so we have the freedom of owning property, and so it's our responsibility to be responsible with it.
Yeah.
And to look out for not only our neighbors, to do with our land what we feel that our neighbors would appreciate.
Sure.
But also to do what future generations are depending on us to do, and people in other parts of the state and other parts of the county and other parts of the country are depending on us to do with the property that we own because they can't do it with theirs.
Amen.
That's a big deal.
It's a huge deal because we're on a system, like we always say, an ecosystem.
It's an ecosystem.
And that system, we got a water system, we got an air system, we got everything, and everything affects everything. And so this affects us like a giant spider web.
It's the cogs in a wheel.
Yes, the cogs in the wheel. So like we talked about a long time ago, everything affects everything. And when you start plinking with it, you need to be aware that what you do here affects your neighbor and affects downstream. And for a reason, I just have to tell the story. I guess it was in 2012 or 2013. I was over in Grimes County around Beat Ice. That's when I was doing some oil and gas work. And they had to put a CDP site. They wanted a CDP site. They wanted this place, but nobody wanted to sell them land.
What is a CDP? What is a CDP
Central
site?
Delivery Plant. So
Okay.
all the gas pipelines go to this plant. But anyway, what they wanted to sell was big gullied land. Well, like we talked about streams and everything else like that. That gullied land is where they wanted to buy is like 10 acres, and they're going to take that 10 acres and put a site on it. Because those were gullies, they weren't jurisdictional. They were considered ephemeral under that current administration. So they were able to just level it, no permit, not ask anybody, not tell their neighbors, do nothing, level it, bring in millions and millions of yards of dirt, put on top of it, build it up, build a plant where trucks come in and out and deliver and gas comes in. But then 3 months later, all those gullies, they routed around that CDP site, and then they shot that water right downstream.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so think about if you were the neighbor on the other end. His whole pasture was covered in silt and dirt and gravel and debris and everything else, and he was a half mile away.
Oh, my gosh.
From him, so yeah.
And somebody got a pretty good check off for that site.
Oh, yeah. Big time.
Yeah,
Big time.
and everybody else paid for it.
Yeah, and nobody had to get a permit to do it because of
And everybody else around paid for it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, their land value went down.
Their land value went way down. The person that lived right next to it went way down because you got a CDP site. It's lights everywhere. Trucks are coming in and out, in and out, in and out, all night long, all day long. Lots of noise. So there you go. So
Back to the golden rule.
Back to the golden rule.
Yeah, and so there is right answers to it. How you get there is
I don't know.
I mean, is on all our shoulders.
It depends,
Being neighborly,
Yeah, neighborly, treating each other by the golden rule. But, it just seems that we've turned into a society now where people want quick money. And I'm going to flip this. I'm going to get it done, sell it, and we'll make money and move on. I'll go somewhere else.
That's right. Well, it's not only a problem for your local neighbors, but again, like we said,
yeah.
I mean, if it happens in South Texas where they grow avocados, none of us are getting avocados.
No.
So we're depending on them people down there to make good decisions and do that, and they're depending on us here. Yeah. I mean, Milam County is one of the biggest agriculture per GDP counties in the state.
It's huge.
I mean, lots of cattle produced, lots of corn, cotton, milo. I mean,
wheat.
Yes, lots of, and we're sitting in the middle of what they call the Golden Triangle.
Yeah.
Which is called the Golden Triangle because so much money, I guess, in the big cities that are on the corners of the triangle that we're about to get imploded on. Basically, is what
we already have.
Yeah, we already have. Yeah, look
at Williamson County, and even Bell County.
They're in the middle of
Eastern.
They're in this Golden Triangle too that me and Chancey are talking.
They
about.
are, but you look at Eastern Williamson County and Eastern Bell County. They were all black land, like what we grew up in. They don't exist anymore. You got a few places around Jonah where they're still farming in Circleville and stuff like that, but the rest of it, it's being put in houses and toll roads and everything else. I mean, it's happening. And when those toll roads come in, then they're going to have to build gas stations on corners where roads met, and those gas stations are going to mean more subdivisions. It's just going to continue to grow.
It's a snowball.
And they're not building west because they don't want to afford it, and plus they got to deal with the rocks. So what are they doing? They're building east into the dirt,
Into the black dirt.
Which is where our cropland is.
That's an issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not only that, if they go east, there is no endangered species out there. There is no nothing because it's all cropland and farmland. So they don't have to do any special permitting. They don't have to do anything elsewhere. If they
No
go
hardwood.
west,
Not a lot of hardwood.
no golden cheek warblers out east of I-35, but there's plenty west. So that's just more. So, like it just gives them. And then not only that, you're bringing in Tesla, you're bringing in Samsung, bringing in all these people, which is going to bring all these jobs. It's going to create wonderful Shangri-La utopia here in Texas. I don't know.
It's not good for resources.
It's not good for resources, and it's especially not good for the people that depend on those resources when the crap's going to hit the fan, because the crap is going to hit the fan. Texas does go through droughts.
Yes.
And it will come again. It's going to happen.
They're getting
and
worse.
Now we have, I don't know how many more people we got now than we did 10 years ago. But it's a ridiculous amount.
I want to say on like our second episode or something, we mentioned something about that with population and deer.
Yeah, maybe so.
Yeah, we talked about how population growth, what the population growth has been. Yeah, and so it's same. It's going to affect wildlife too.
Oh yeah, it's going to affect everything. Water is the most critical resource we have. It's absolutely necessary for life survival. It's just that simple.
And you got to figure out a way to recharge it.
Yeah.
Yeah, then to
recharge it, and that means not putting concrete everything in houses and solar panels and everything else, and trying to leave, even if it is farmland or rangeland, maintain it, manage it as a resource versus impervious cover. And that's what's happening in our blackland right now. They are taking our blackland prairie and they are putting it into impervious cover. And this is a bad problem.
The big problem. And I think I saw somewheres where the amount of concrete in the United States has now surpassed the amount of biomass in the United States. If that's true, I don't know.
I hope not.
I heard that on some news thing I was listening to the other day, and that's highly likely.
Well, I mean, look how much concrete's out there.
There's a lot of concrete.
Just look at it. I mean, just every time it rains an inch in town, it floods everything because they don't have nowhere to go.
Yeah, and so like Chancey's talking about, impermeable cover. The water can't soak through the concrete, so it runs down the concrete. It runs to the streams, it runs to the river, and it runs to the Gulf of Mexico.
Yeah, and erodes. Nothing to slow it down.
Yes.
Washes out trees.
Takes topsoil and dirt with it when it does kind of.
Yeah. Gravel bars. Screws up hatcheries. Messes up sedimentation in the ocean. Probably kills fish on the other end. All kinds of problems.
And it's not a problem. It's not a problem that anybody on Earth today created. It's been going on for a long time. And so it's really starting to snowball because populations are becoming so concentrated in the big cities and around big cities where people settled originally, where the resources were the best for survival.
Yeah. But we have created a lot of it in the last 40 years.
Since the Industrial Revolution, too, probably.
No, 40 years. I'm talking about mismanagement of resources and impervious covers and building, the way that we build and expand and grow and expand out and build toll roads and everything else because they don't deal with the problem that's internal. You don't fix
the problem. You just keep moving out.
Just keep moving out.
Yeah. Your sewer and all that gets run downhill. Well, instead of fixing that, we'll just build a new one and move on out.
Because we're just it's kind of like a locust.
Yeah, true. Yeah. Like I mean, just once something gets run down, I saw one time.
No sense in doing it right the first time. Just take advantage of it and move on.
Years ago, they were building some apartments by where I lived in College Station in college, and I noticed it was all particle board.
Yeah.
Very little concrete. The studs were like on 2-foot centers, and I was like, I asked the guy, I said, why do those apartments look like they're built so crappy? He said, those apartments are built to last 30 years. Yeah. And he said they don't want them to last any longer than that because by then this will all be outdated and everybody will done and moved out from here. He said those are not built to last. They're built to last long enough for like until they're aged out and it's time to move on.
That right there is the problem. You just nailed it in that statement right there.
Yeah.
What the problem? There is no sustainability, no thought for how do I maintain my house or maintain where I live or maintain my area or my land for long term. Get it and go.
That's true.
You know,
Yep.
it's
And
a problem.
it's all a battle of dollars and resources.
Yep.
And we got to start putting more attention to resource conservation.
Amen.
And the responsibilities that come with our freedom of owning land.
Yes.
And
It's a big responsibility.
it's a huge. If you're a landowner, you got a huge responsibility.
Huge responsibility, and it's important.
Yes, it is.
Very important.
But anyways, I think that's going to wrap this up.
All right, Brad.
Yeah. It's already almost midnight here.
Is it really?
Yeah, it's already 11:30. And so enjoy getting together with Chance again and discussing a very serious topic.
Yep.
And so we appreciate you guys taking time out of your day to listen, and we hope y'all have a good night. And until something else pops into our head, we'll see you next time.
Good night, y'all.